Hey everybody, Philip McCluskey here, and I am with herbalist and energy expert Elwin Robinson from the UK. And we're here to discuss some really fun stuff with you today. As you can tell, my energy is pretty high because we're talking today about energy and the key to permanent high energy. Now, this is one of the things that I get questioned about the most. How can you increase your energy? How can you be more active in life, whether it's playing with your family or being with your family, playing with your kids, just enjoying life, whether it's to be more productive in your workspace and get the things done you just want to get done, but having that energy to really just go and thrive and be on your mission and be on your purpose and really be focused. And we know energy's become such a big thing. Of course, the media has gone a little bit nuts with that, with every kind of energy drink, Red Bull, sugary substance possible. It's a billion-dollar industry right now, but we want to really find out what's the solution for a healthy means of upping your energy, having it be long-lasting, and having a really vibrant life. So that's why I'm really excited to bring Elwin on the program today, because he's going to give us the download on how to increase your energy in a safe and natural way and how to feel amazing and get more on purpose. So welcome, Elwin, to the show.
Thank you so much, Phil. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you.
So tell me what's going on in the world of energy. What have things been looking like? I know that over here in the States, I mean, there's just a new energy drink that seems like it's popping up every single day. Is that the same type of thing that you guys are experiencing, I'd imagine?
Yeah, I mean, in a global recession, it seems like the one thing that's a growth industry is coffee shops. Like everywhere they're popping up. I think people are feeling more and more drained, more and more depleted, more and more wiped out, and we're getting more and more desperate for energy. It's actually the most valuable commodity in the world, right? Forget oil, forget money, forget even love. I mean, if your energy is low, everything is no good in your life, and if your energy is high, you can be in the most terrible situation and you'll find a way out of it. You'll find a way to have an awesome life. So to me, I think energy is the most fundamental, valuable, and highly desirable thing that you can possibly have in your life.
Fantastic, and I agree. And so many times, I mean, I've just gone through the whole gamut with just friends in the past going through energy drinks, myself included. I remember I was part of the Red Bull revolution, and then of course, it's slowly as you move away from those things. Sometimes we justify and go to coffee, and that ends up being the next thing, and you become addicted to the bean. And then you see a lot of raw foodists switch from coffee over to
Cacao.
chocolate, yeah,
Yeah.
cacao bean, and always pumping that with lots of agave and lots of honey, and I do love honey, not so much agave at all, but and they're really continuously going. And what I found that's happened to many people that I know is they've been really running on chocolate. They've been running on chocolate. They get involved with chocolate because they're having a cleaner version, a healthier version, maybe a 70% cacao content, and which is great and it's amazing. But then next thing you know, you take away the chocolate bars for a couple days and just wiped out, and they're just totally tired, and they're realizing that they're burning through some of the adrenals and just not feeling good at all. And so we really want to figure out what's some of the things that they can do, or what's your just take on that alone, and with chocolate and stimulants overall.
It's a really great point, Phil. I mean, the reason why I've become an energy expert is because I was so bad at energy for most of my life. I mean, the thing that depletes you of energy more, the thing that depletes you of energy more than anything else is stress, right? Stress, tension in your body, often resulting from early chronic stress or early trauma or early depletion, right? And then for the rest of your life, it always seems like you're trying to chase energy and you're never quite caught up with it. And I know I was certainly like that, for my energy journey was, first of all, I tried to get it with sweets, right, when I was a little kid, and every time I had some sweets, I had like an energy for a little bit and I could keep up with the rest of the kids, and then I'd crash down. And little did I know, actually, most kids were doing the same thing, right? And then I became a teenager, it was coffee, and then it was also cigarettes, and then sometimes it was harder, more illegal drugs as well. But it was all of that, I mean, even up to my mid-20s, I was drinking sometimes 10 to 20 espressos a day, right?
Wow.
just to keep me going. I would literally have to have a stimulant every 15 to 30 minutes just to be able to keep up with my life and keep up with my job. So I certainly understand that. Now, here's the thing I think that we need to understand about stimulants, which I never understood at all, right? So people don't get it. I get that. A stimulant does not give you energy. A stimulant robs you of energy. And there's a really good story, from Native American tribes really far north, which I think really exemplifies this. So really far north, like where there's a lot of ice, where there's a lot of snow, where there's not a lot of wildlife. And what they would do, these indigenous tribes, is take a knife, put it in the ice, and put a little bit of fresh blood in there. And then a wolf or some kind of animal like that would smell the blood, and it's really hungry because it's cold, and it would start licking at the blade. And as it started licking, it would cut its tongue, and it would start drinking its own blood. I know this is like vivid imagery, but bear with me here because it's important that I explain this. And it would start drinking its own blood, and it'd be like, oh, God, thank God, I've got some food, right? And it would feel all satisfied until eventually it would die of drinking its own blood. And this is a way that they would hunt. Now, basically, this is what multinational corporations, not that there's any kind of bad guy, right? But this is what these companies are doing to us with stimulants, right? They're making us think that they are giving us something that gives us energy. Because I remember when I was drinking all this coffee, I used to think, okay, so coffee gives me energy, and in some nebulous way, it's also apparently bad for me, but I didn't really understand what it was, right? And then later on, I understood, okay, so what coffee does is it uses up and drains me of that adrenal energy, and every time I use it, I feel more tired afterwards, and I have more of a tolerance to the coffee because I've been more drained. But there's actually another level to that, Phil, which I think even most people in the health world don't understand, and that's why do things like coffee, or chocolate, or cigarettes, or alcohol, or prescription drugs that energize you. Probably I'm not qualified to talk about medication, not being a medical doctor, but you know the ones I'm referring to, right? The ones that are given to people with low energy. They give you energy because, or they seem to give you energy because they are poisoning you. Right? So why are you getting an adrenal response? Why is it when you have a coffee or a 5-hour energy drink or a Red Bull or whatever, have you got energy? Why have you got adrenal energy? Adrenal energy, adrenaline, is a response to threat. Right? So it's a response, to a saber-toothed tiger chasing you, or a big gang of people, coming up to you in a threatening way, sure. But also if you poison yourself, your body goes into adrenal overload. It releases sugar from storage into the bloodstream, releases adrenaline, releases noradrenaline, releases dopamine, and the outcome is that your metabolism speeds up, and the outcome is that you feel clear, you feel focused, you feel alive, you feel good, you feel in a peak state, relatively, because you've just poisoned yourself. And then your body clears the poison out, and then you feel like you've just poisoned yourself.
It's so funny. You see that so many times in like the movie industry, or especially with models. They just go from one stimulant to the next because they're trying to keep their weight down. So they're not eating much food, but what they're generally thriving on is stimulants, and they have to be up for a certain amount of hours, or be there for a certain amount of time for a shoot, or do a movie over a certain amount of time period, and you got to be on your A game the entire time. But at the same time, they're not looking to gain weight, so they're just pumping down those stimulants. And then every once in a while, you hear in the newspaper that a model, falls off the runway and faints or something like that, literally from that poison overload.
Yeah, and it depends on the strength of the person, and a lot of that has to do with genetics as to how long they can get away with that for, right? Like for me, I crashed in my mid-20s. Some people, are worse off in that regard, and they can't even do it at all. They have one coffee and they feel like, they kill themselves even when they're only 12, right? Another person, maybe they're in their 50s and they still seem to be going strong with that particular strategy to life. But it's, that a lot of the time they're basically feeling bad. So basically what they're doing is just in a response to feeling bad. They're feeling drained, they're feeling depleted all the time, and every time they have a stimulant, they put on a good show, right, and they go through the motions and they go through the day, but their life is like a roller coaster. It's up, down, up, down, up, down, and then at night, often they're so wired that they're too up and they can't sleep, and then they need downers, whether it's alcohol, whether it's a drink, whether it's cannabis, whether it's a prescription drug, Xanax or whatever, and it's just this absolute mess, basically, when it comes to energy, and eventually you have a crash and burn, like you described. I mean, celebrities fainting is the least of it. A lot of major congenital illnesses are related to just constantly draining and depleting your energy. So that's why we decided to call this, permanent, long-lasting high energy. Because if you want high energy, it's true, you can just take a hit of crack, right?
Yeah.
if you want energy, or,
Essentially.
or a double hit of espresso, whatever, right? But we don't want that. We don't want artificial energy, which then makes us feel terrible afterwards. We want that long-term, sustainable energy. And the good news I'm here to tell you is that no matter how depleted you might have got, no matter how far down that stimulant road you may have got, there is always a way to get to that long-term, sustainable energy. If you're still alive, you can still do it.
If you're still alive, it's still attainable to be sustainable.
Yes.
uh, Fantastic. And I hadn't even thought about the downers. Sometimes people using those types of things really just maintaining their level of stimulation. It's just like pump, 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 pump. Oh wait, I'm tired. I'm supposed to be asleep now. Down, 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 down. Oh, okay, I need to get up. Pump, pump, pump. And like nothing's natural. It's like artificial through and through.
Yeah, and then you can throw a third angle into that, and then because their life is so horrible, because they're always up and down, sometimes they want to escape, and then they go for the psychoactives. Maybe they smoke some marijuana, or they take some LSD or something like that to just get the hell out of themselves, out of it, as people put it, or MDMA, like ecstasy, whatever you call it over there, because their life is such low quality, their overall state of feeling is such low quality, they just want to escape from it. And that's kind of sad as well. The ultimate goal, as far as I'm concerned, of high energy is that you feel good all the time. Not in a peak state necessarily, because peak inevitably means crash. Right? That's
Right.
part of it. But not peaking and crashing, just consistently high all the time. That's what we want. We want to feel good all the time.
I'm all about feeling good all the time.
Absolutely, and it seems like it's not even possible. I remember I used to feel miserable most of the time. That was my reality. Bleak, black, dark, depression, feeling drained, feeling angry, feeling depleted. I guess that's the most, and life just seemed like it was a series of things being bad. And in the case you take something or you do something, you get a little jump and you feel good or you feel okay, and then it's back to the bad feeling. And when I talk to people, and I talk to a lot of people now, Phil, as I know you have, all throughout the world, about this, that's basically most people's reality. It's feeling bad most of the time, and then just punctuated with a little bit of good feeling, a little bit of good feeling. And when you say to them it's possible to feel good all the time, they're like, it just sounds too hard to believe. In fact, I remember our mutual friend Shazzy, she was doing a book launch a few years ago, and I went there before I'd really cracked this, and she talked about being ecstatic all the time. And I put my hand up and I was like, yeah, but you can't really be happy all the time, can you? She later described me as heckling her. I was like, no, there's not this question, right? And she said, yeah, you can be. And I'm here to tell you she was right. You really can be. You just got to know how to do it. It's like anything. It's not something you can expect to know. In the same way that you're not necessarily going to grow up knowing how to fix a car or how to make $1 million or how to have a successful relationship or whatever. It's something you have to learn.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is it doesn't just affect you. Like now your partner has to learn how to navigate your mood swings, or your children have to know when it's okay to talk to dad and when it's not, and every time it's a crapshoot, is the energy up or is it down, or you're feeling good or not, and it's just this back and forth thing. So it really does affect the people around us as well, versus just getting to a place, being balanced, feeling amazing every single day. And wow, you can attract so much into your life. Your family wants to be around you. Your kids want to be around you. Your friends, your business people want to work with you. More abundance comes into your life. It seems like it's a catalyst for so much more than just, I've got a lot of energy today, I can go play sports. That's not it. This is energy to live your life in the best possible way.
Absolutely. And when people get this, not only does it affect their family and their friends, but you tend to find that when people get really high levels of consistent energy, they affect the world to make it a better place. There's a reason why there's all these kind of raw food people, cropping up everywhere, and coaches and teachers and all that. It's because they start getting higher energy and they're like, wow, I want to share this not just with my family, I want to help the world, So this is really a movement that we're creating, Phil, of people who wake up, start to have really high levels of energy, and then do their best to make not just necessarily their family and friends, but maybe their whole community or even the whole world be an extraordinary place by showing people, listen, it is possible to feel good. And here's a really important distinction about feeling good I don't think most people understand. I learned this from the founder of NLP, Richard Bandler, and he says, when you feel good, you make good decisions. And when you feel bad, you make bad decisions. That's such an important piece, and we might talk about it in a minute when we talk about the steps. But basically, you can't expect yourself to make decisions that help you when you are in the middle of feeling bad. You know, like if you feel bad, you're like, oh, I'm just going to hide from the world, or oh, I'm just going to have a coffee, or oh, I'm just going to have a hit of crack, you know, or oh, I'm just going to create this drama with this person where we have an argument, so that then I have an adrenaline hit, right? And this is not a good way to live your life. So you have to learn a new way of being. I think not just for the good of yourself, not even just for the good of your family and friends, but for the good of the whole world, because we all affect each other, whether we like it or not.
Mm. So let's get into it. I'm excited, and I know the listeners are pumped up. Again, we probably have all gone through the gamut of stimulants in one way or another. Most people have tried chocolate or their coffees, or maybe even a Red Bull or something along those lines. Not to give that company too much glory, because
No.
they don't. But that's the one that I grew up on for sure. And it was always funny. I actually remember hearing a comedian talk about it. He would say, "I don't know who came up with the idea of mixing Red Bull and alcohol." And they were like, "But that was the big drink at the bars and the clubs when I was growing up." And it was just like, you've got this stimulant that keeps you going, and at the same time you're drinking alcohol, and you're trying to just crash and get out of this miserable feeling of drunkenness. But the stimulant's like, hey, you're not going anywhere yet. You still got to deal with it. And I always thought that was so funny. But it's so true, and it's funny in a sad way. It's quite unfortunate. But anyway, let's get into it. What are some of the dynamics of creating that permanent, high, long-lasting energy? Give us some tips that people can take home and really put to practice right in their life right away.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to present this in a way that was really fun to people, right? Because we've talked for a good 20 minutes now about why stimulants are bad, right? And I just want to emphasize this approach that I have is not about what's bad, and it's not about cutting stuff out. It's really about focusing what you can do. And I like to look at it as a game. I think people learn best when they're doing games, right? And what I realized is that energy is a lot like the game of snakes and ladders. There's like you have to start, and then you have to go along, and if you go up the ladder, you can get to the finish line really quickly. You can get to that high, sustained, permanent level of energy really quickly. And if you hit the snakes, then you can end up going all the way down again, So I created like the energy ladder framework, which is like the 10 steps that you need to go all the way from the start to the finish line. If you can just climb that ladder, it makes it so easy. Otherwise, you can spend a whole lifetime trying to chase energy, and you're going to be doing okay at best. So first step. So in terms of the game, those kind of annoying games where you often have to throw like a 6 or like a double before you can even start the game?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I find that the energy game is a little bit like that quite often. Like if you don't know the first step, the first rung on the ladder, then you can just be stuck like throwing doubles. Everyone's kind of running ahead of you, and you're like, I haven't even started yet. This isn't fair. I haven't even started yet. And I know, I used to help people, particularly with exhaustion and stuff like that, before I've gone into this more just wanting to help everyone with energy, and that's how a lot of them felt. Like, God damn it, I'm doing everything right. I'm eating raw food, and I'm going to yoga, and I'm not drinking and smoking, and I still, can't even start. I still got just the same flat energy that I had before, right? And I worked out the first step is really mindset. So that's the first thing to look at. Rung number one on the ladder is mindset. And there's 3 particular aspects to mindset which I think are really important. Number 1 is learning to control your own focus. Learning to control your own focus. Now, most people, you and I have done interviews about this before, feel that they're not a cause in their lives. They feel like they're a victim. They feel like things happen to them. It's not that they get upset, it's people make them upset, right? It's not that they've made themselves depleted in energy, it's that they happen to be depleted in energy, right? So the first thing is to realize, listen, the quality of your life depends on what you choose to focus on, and that focusing is a choice. Now, I just want to give people a little bit of leeway in this regard, because I've really been involved in the cutting edge of neuroscience, especially over the last half a year, and what has been discovered is that if your brain is in a certain well-developed state, then it's quite easy to choose your focus, right? You're going to be like, you know what would be good for me today is to get up, have a green smoothie, go to the gym, do some exercise, get on with my work, be nice to my wife and kids, do you know what I mean? And I'm going to do it, right?
Sure.
But that requires a certain portion of the brain to be highly functioning, and that's called the prefrontal cortex. A lot of people, when they've had a lot of chronic stress, especially earlier in life, or if they've had traumatic events, even later on in life, the prefrontal cortex doesn't grow properly, or it starts to not work very well, and we find it really hard to make those executive decisions. We find it hard to set goals, to plan, to consistently see things through, all the rest of it, right? We find it hard on the most basic level just to choose what to focus on. We find ourselves, oh, I'm just watching the news, oh, it's scaring me, oh, I'm just drinking a Red Bull, oh, how did that get here? You know what I mean? So learning to focus our mind, and this is something, even the wonderful thing that the new evidence in neuroscience shows is that even if your prefrontal cortex has been severely damaged by like a bullet or something, it's possible to get that faculty back again. Better than most people even. It's a concept called neuroplasticity. So no matter how bad you may be at goal setting, focusing, consistently focusing on something, you know, what's generally called discipline, right? Or reliability, or being a creative person, choosing your own life, you can do it. And the way to do it, the way to grow your brain back again, is to practice it. So it's to practice choosing your focus. Throughout the day, practice to choose your focus. And that leads us nicely on to step 2, which is, if you want to have high energy, you have to have a really precise understanding of what that even means. And the way I like to look at it is to say you need to give your brain exact coordinates. In the same way that if you wanted to get somewhere, let's say, you know, you're in New York now, Phil, if you wanted to get to LA and you wanted to use Google Maps, you couldn't just put in there, you know, I want to go to somewhere, I hear it's sunny, do you know what I mean? It would be like, it wouldn't get you there. You'd have to actually put, you know, it's Los Angeles and it's in the state of California, right? And I want to get to this bit, I want to get to Brentwood, I want to get to Beverly Hills, whatever, right? You have to be really specific. And it's the same is true of energy. And I find the challenges for most people, they have no idea what a sustained high energy state looks like, feels like, smells like, tastes like, or sounds like. So it's about creating that vision and feeling inside yourself and being exactly sure and answering all the questions. So what is high energy? Why is it important for me to get to high energy? And you have to attach that why to whatever is important to you. If what's important for you ultimately is that your family is happy, then you have to say, listen, what's most important for me is that my family's happy, and I have to get high energy so that I can be there and give of myself fully to my family, right? But if for you, you know, that's not an issue. What you want to be successful, you're going to say, hey, I want to be successful. And that's why I've got to get my energy high, right? Or whatever it might be for you. You know, if you're a young man, it might be, hey, I just want to get laid. You're like, right, you want to get laid? Then you need to have high energy, because no one's gonna, you know, want to hook up with the depleted whiner, right? As I discovered when I was a teenager. So you know, you've got to find something that really appeals to you. So that's the why, right? And then you've got to answer the how. You know, how are you actually going to do it, and the when. You know, when are you going to achieve it by? Like real. And if this is hard for you, this kind of stuff, like I say, it's a matter of practicing it. No one's saying it's going to be easy for you, especially if you know that part of your brain has got damaged or wasn't developed properly. But it's about consistently taking your focus and forcing it onto, this is what I'm trying to achieve. This is what I'm going to achieve. This is what I'm going to achieve. This is what it's like. This is the vision. This is what's important to me. And just keep yourself going back to that. And then step number 3 in mindset, the last one, really often underlooked with people who are into goal setting, is presence. You know, you've got to be present. You've got to actually live this life. And there's a really good reason for that. As I said before, the biggest, most depleting thing for your energy is stress, right? Now, where does 98% of stress live? I know most people would say it's out there. It's my boss. It's my wife. It's my children. It's the government. You know, it's the tax man, whatever it might be, right? No, stress does not live outside you. Stress is your response to what's going on outside you. It's you, right? And the proof of that is that anything that might make you stressed, you'd be able to find another human in the world who that wouldn't stress. Like for me personally, if I were to walk in the middle of a war zone or a room where everyone's pointing guns at each other, I would be stressed, right?
Sure.
But you know that there's that covert ops guy who's, you know, done it a million times, and he could have 10 guns pointed at him and he wouldn't be stressed, because he rehearsed it a million times and he knows exactly how to do it. Bam, 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 and then he's just standing there. I know it's not just the movies, there are a few people in the world who are like that, right? But then again, maybe you take that same special ops guy and you put him in the situation of having a person open up and be vulnerable to him, and he might freak out. Right? And that would make him stressed, right? And yeah, you know, someone else, oh, that's nice, you're being vulnerable with me. So what I'm saying is, anything that stresses you out, there's someone who it wouldn't stress out. Now, here's where we get to, where does stress really originate? And I'd say it's right here. Okay? Stress, 98% of the time, comes from being in your head.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if you're actually focused on the outside world, what's going on right here, right now, there's no need for stress, right? So occasionally, yeah, someone's yelling at you, there's a fire alarm going off, yeah, that's real stress out there. But that's the vast majority of people's stress is in their memories, in their future projections, in their imagination, in their fears, right? It's always in their head. So again, being present is not easy. It's a matter of taking that executive part of the brain and forcing yourself to focus on being present. Now,
One of the things that I used to remember doing often in that was thinking about things of the past and then continuously replaying them out. Even after they were already done, how would I do that again? How would I do that better? And a lot of times, in hindsight, later on in life, I realized that I was generally going through that because in that moment I wasn't speaking my truth, for example. So something would come up and I wasn't doing what I want because of fear. And then all of a sudden, later on, maybe a week later, a day later, a month later, I'm sitting there, oh, if I did that, or if that person said that, I should have said that, and kept going through. But again, like you said, I wasn't present. I was in the past. Or I was, the next time that person says that, I'm going to do this. Now there I am in the future, and also putting my attention and energy towards something that's not serving me as well. No wonder why I was stressed. I'm in the future, I'm in the past, I'm like here, I'm everywhere. But right now.
And any good therapy is basically, the process of getting a client to stop focusing on anything other than the present. If you're focused on the present, then you're all good, right? I mean, it's useful to sometimes look at why was I not present and how, and all that kind of thing. But really, again, as modern brain research is showing, the bottom line is to take your focus and point it at what you want, and to take your focus and point it at the present moment. And that's basically it, right? People ask me, the Eastern systems, they all say you should just be present. And the Western systems, they talk a lot about, no, you should be law of attraction, right? You should be focusing on your goals. You should be focusing on what you want. And the answer is not one or the other. It's both. Most people spend most of the time focusing on what is bad and what they're afraid of and what they're worried about. I would say that you want to spend about, this is obviously just throwing random figures out, but say 80% of the time focus on being present. 15% of the time focusing on what you're aiming for, 4% of the time focusing on how you're going to get there, and 1% of the time focusing on what's wrong. Right? And most people it's the exact
It's so
opposite.
funny because most people do the opposite.
Yeah.
I always hear the classic story when somebody's like, oh, I did visualization today. I practiced for 30 minutes visualizing financial abundance in my life. But then at the same time, the other 23 and a half hours in the day, they still focused on their bills and all the things that were wrong. And so not being very present to what they want or not focusing on what they want to bring into their lives.
Yeah, and getting present is so simple once you know the trick, and I do the training in the free video series, which I know you're going to have a link to. But basically, it's like it's a 1 minute trick, to get present. Yeah, you could spend 5 hours thinking about why you're not present. Or you could just spend 1 minute getting present. Actually, it's less than a minute. It takes a minute to learn. It takes about 10 seconds to actually do, and just get present every time. And then step 3 along the way. So we've got focusing on exactly what you want, focusing being present, choosing your focus. Oh, I said 3 steps, didn't I? I'm going to add a 4th one in there. And that's have a great strategy. Right. So even if you've got a totally clear picture, and even if you're pretty present, then if you've got this dogmatic idea that coffee is the route to energy, then you're never going to get long-term sustainable energy. You need to have a strategy which really works. And that's mindset to me, and that's the way to really get started. No, it's not the be all and end all as far as I'm concerned in my experience. Unlike some people say it's just all in the mind. No, it's not. It's also in the body, right? If your body is very depleted, if it's very run down, then just pointing your brain in the right direction won't be enough. But it is the essential first step, and it's the one that will just completely transform the quality of your life.
So when I look at what you said, creating a mindset for success for high energy, then what does energy actually mean to you? And do you understand it and why? Getting present and having a great strategy. I think so many times when people will have listened to the title of this, they might be expecting the fast food version or the easy order menu version of how to get high energy. Well, take this pill, take this, take that, and you're ready to go. But in reality, it's not that. This preparatory work is which makes it long-lasting and permanent, which is what we're really talking about here.
Yeah.
A lot of times people have the diet approach where, again, they want to have a pill and then that's going to solve everything. That's going to solve the world for them. But really, it takes that foundation of self-love and understanding your emotional eating and the patterns and triggers that you've created and putting the axe to that before you can actually lose the weight and keep it off, and it's not just some quick fad, you're creating a lifestyle. And I love that these are probably something that generally people wouldn't have expected, because it reminds me of the story of chopping down the tree, you know, how, like, if it took somebody, you know, I forget how it goes, but it took them 10 hours to chop down the tree, but, you know, it was like 9 hours was taken and used to sharpen the axe.
Right.
You know, and then chopping down the tree was easy after that. So many times we start to chop down the tree with a dull blade, and we're just sitting there chopping, and then guess what? Next year we're sitting there chopping, and then next year we're sitting there chopping, and we really haven't found the secret to it yet because we haven't had that mindset for success to really do it permanent and have it last the lifetime, and really, just like you said, feel good all the time, not have to deal with those swings, not have to deal with the inconsistency, but be consistent, be on purpose, be focused, be on target and what your mission is for this lifetime, because having the energy is going to bring those projects to fruition. It's going to bring those contacts in your life and maybe put you in the position that you're destined to be in. You know, you never know who you're speaking to or who's watching you or who's hearing the words that you're saying. I mean, sometimes it can just, you know, it can be as something simple as saying one right word or phrase to somebody in due season that could change and affect the entire world. I mean, who is the person that had the energy or the stamina or the courage or the confidence to, you know, go speak to a Martin Luther King or a Mahatma Gandhi for the first time, and then that triggered off something in them, and then they went on their purpose and their mission and their focus, and then that just kept trickling on. How many times have we been inspired by Gandhi and be the change you want to see in the world, and his famous quote, and a lot of people have taken that to heart and gone on with it. But having the energy, having the drive, and having basically being on purpose is what's key to fulfilling that part of your destiny or your mission or your purpose or what have you, and really kind of creating a space of liberation for all of those around you, and also being having, of course, the simplicity of just having the energy to enjoy your family, enjoy your life.
Absolutely, Phil. Yeah. I like TR Vecchi. He says something very similar to what you just said. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. You know, so the whole sneaking something in, or I'll just be lazy today, or I'll just have a low standard today, and tomorrow I'll, you know, no. It's about making a permanent shift. And everything I'm explaining now, I think, is the stuff that's missing through, what I've explained so far, is the stuff that's missing from most of the health world. Like, people who want a magic bullet, a magic pill, like you say, I'm not that guy for them, right? They can go and spend another 5 years or whatever, like, trying that, and then when that doesn't work, they can come to me and I'll get them on track within a few months, right?
Yeah,
a few months of solid work, and they're going to be completely transformed. So that's the place that I'm coming from. Yes, it does take a little bit more work to understand the stuff that I'm talking about now, but it pays off in dividends. You know, it's a small investment ultimately for a large reward, rather than the other way, which is why you're always chasing the quick fix, but it never really works. So it takes you actually infinitely longer to do it that way.
Yeah.
Can I give you a couple more steps, Phil, which are like more practical for those who are into the practical
Sure.
side? So all of that just comes under the step of mindset, and there's quite a lot to it because, like I say, it's the thing that gets you playing the game in the first place, right? And for those people who are thinking, you know, who a lot of people in the raw food world and those kind of places, they are like, I don't get it. You know, my neighbour, he seems to he eats hamburgers and he snorts cocaine and all the rest of it. He still seems to have more energy than me. How is that? I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that, right? But maybe that mindset thing that I just said is one of them, right? Maybe he's doing that stuff. Maybe he's focusing on what he wants to achieve. Maybe he's being present. And then you are eating raw food, but spending the whole time worrying and being anxious, you know? And he has got the edge on you in that case. So obviously we don't want to be like either of those people, right? We want to be at the optimal level. That's the permanent high energy. So there's a couple of practical steps I'll give you here. And then, like I say, there's 7 more steps on the ladder. The first one is oxygen. You know, so that's a really practical one. And in the area of oxygen, I've discovered, you know, over working with thousands of people, to help them to optimize their energy, there's a few areas you've got to master. One of them is the way that you breathe, obviously. Another one is the quality of the air that you breathe. Another one that most people don't think of is your posture, right? If your basic posture is like hunched over like this, you're never going to get enough oxygen, right? So that's a key point as well. So we got the way that you breathe.
Right before you said that, like, I actually noticed your posture, and I noticed my posture, and popped my shoulders back a bit more.
Excellent. Mindfulness, excellent. And that's why we start with presence and not any of this stuff. Because if you're not present, I can tell you, listen, you've got to have a good posture, and you'll go, yeah, great, and then you'll be in a bad posture, right? So it is about being present first. But then when you are, oh yeah, okay, I've got to be in a good posture. Oh yeah, I've got to breathe actual fresh air, not stuffy, what's it called that you guys have everywhere over in America? Air conditioning air, you know?
Yeah.
You want to be having fresh air as much as you possibly can. And the way that you're breathing. And also, really important, the way that you exercise and the fact that you exercise, you know? To be exercising regularly and to be exercising anaerobically. Now, for those people who are like, oh, I can't exercise, I'm too depleted, I'm too exhausted, I'm too much in pain. Okay, I accept that, you know. I couldn't exercise either when I first started on this, pretty much. But there's ways to still exercise aerobically. There's like Qigong, for instance, which is like the Chinese version of yoga, where you can pretty much literally just stand there, you know, not moving at all. And it's one of the best ways to exercise your whole body, right? So even if you think that you can't exercise, there are ways of aerobically exercising and getting your aerobic capacity, which is called. Here's a really interesting fact for you, Phil. I hope you find it interesting. I looked this up only a few months ago to do the research for this series that I'm giving away. Did you know that? So the basic, when people think of energy, they think of calories, right?
Sure.
Did you know that 1 unit of glucose, which is like the basic unit of calories, if you process that anaerobically, which means without oxygen, you get 2 units of ATP out of it, which is energy, right? So if you don't have enough oxygen, 1 unit of glucose, 2 units of energy. If you do have enough oxygen in your system, 1 unit of glucose can create up to 38 units of ATP.
Wow.
Energy.
Wow.
So we think of energy as food, right? But actually, out of a total 38 units, only 2 units is the food. The other 36 units is your oxygen, right? So it's a huge factor in energy that's really massively discounted most of the time.
That's massive. I mean, so many people just underestimate the breath in general. I remember back when you and I were doing the Get Juicy retreat together, and you were just sharing some about how the body detoxifies, and immediately I was under the understanding that we purge the majority through our skin, and you were sharing that like 75%, I believe, comes out through our lungs and through breath.
Yep.
And that was kind of real mind-opening for me, and that's when I started to pay attention a bit more to the breath, because I noticed that I was even just breathing so much in my chest and not doing any of that deep belly breathing. And then as I started to focus on doing more of the deep belly breathing, I noticed immediately my posture changed, but also I was just more present, back to step one, and it kind of just brought me back to the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we do our presence training, you can bet there's a powerful breath component to it.
No doubt. Great. So let's go right into the third step, Elwin. So the first, we have the mindset and presence. The second, we're oxygen, breath, keeping in really good exercise, checking our posture. Those are all going to affect our energy. What's the third step?
The first step, which is really critical, which is probably the thing that I've focused on most, is hydration. Okay, so hydration.
What kind? Tell us, because I know there's a lot of questions about, is it what water's good? And I mean, everybody under the sun's coming out with some sort of Brita filter cleanse package thing that you can hook up under your sink. Are any of those beneficial, or what's the best form of hydration to get in?
To me, there's no question that the best form is fresh spring water. I mean, you and I have gone to get fresh spring water before, Phil, many times, and you just know every time you get it, that's like, wow, that just satisfies you and fulfills you and energizes you. And even I think you found this as well, makes you present to a degree which is hard to really understand based on modern science. It's just incredibly powerful. Having said that, any water except tap water pretty much is better than no water, you know. So you need to get some kind of hydration in you. I'd say filtered water, especially if it's a decent filter, like a reverse osmosis filter, something like that, is good. I'd say the Brita filters are not useless, but slightly better than useless, right? They get rid of a bit of the sediment, they're okay. I think you really don't want to be having tap water. Not partly because it doesn't hydrate you, but partly because it's poisoning you. But the worst thing about it to me is it puts people off drinking water. You know, people are like,
Yeah.
I don't like water. It's like, well, what kind of water are you drinking? It's pretty much always tap water, right? So I know we're going long in this interview, so you know you and I have both got material about this other places. Let me just mention a couple of other things of hydration. So yes, it's water. Yes, it's having enough. Yes, it's especially having it first thing in the morning, right? Because that's when you've been the longest without drinking all night, and that's when you need to flush your body through. So I'd say a quart or two in the morning before you eat anything is ideal in most cases, not all, but most.
Right.
I'd say a quart a day is appropriate for most people. Again, it depends on your size, right? I've got one client who's half my weight. I've got another client who's twice my weight. So obviously you have to adapt it a little bit. But you know, for the average weight person, about a quart, sorry, I don't mean a quart, a gallon of water.
Gallon, yeah.
A gallon of water a day, 3 or 4 litres for our European watchers. That's going to be pretty much optimal. If you're if you're doing a lot of exercise, basically if you're living like a high performance lifestyle, you can even go higher than that. One of my mentors, Brendan Burchard, got in a lot of trouble with my audience anyway for saying that everyone should have 6 or 7 litres of water a day, which is like getting on 1.5, 2 gallons. I still think that's valid for a lot of people. You know, you talked about before, didn't you, Phil, when you were losing weight, that you sometimes have well over 2 gallons a day.
Sure. You know, and I also recognize that there's times where I'd be stressed, where I would require more water as well. So sometimes when people are on their regular regimen, oh, I'm just having my few glasses or whatever, and then they have a hard day, you don't even recognize that you've already entered into the state of dehydration, and you're just walking around feeling dehydrated. Then usually it ends up compounding because you're not feeling so well, so you might go out and buy some dehydrated food, crackers, chips, whatever, eating that, and it just keeps getting worse and worse, you know. So yeah, kicking that hydration up is super key, even when things are a little bit rough, or you're possibly in some sort of high performance job, or really going for it in life. You know, those classic overachievers. Really important for them to get in some of that good water. And like you said, I actually didn't even recognize the taste of real water when I had real water. I remember just being in Alaska having glacier water, and it was like I hadn't drank water before. And then, of course, you can still get that if you get good spring water from a great spring. You get that feeling as well. And so many times I've even heard people say, I don't like water. And then they'll have spring water and like, oh, I don't know, this was different. This was good, you know, because they're so used to tasting the chemicals and all the rest of the stuff that's in there. It was interesting. I had a friend come over once from Germany, and he had brought his girlfriend, and I went and got a glass of just the tap water from the city I lived in and gave it to her, and she had said something to him in German, and I said, later on I said, well, what did she say to you? And he was like, she said it tasted like you had took the glass and put it in a pool in your backyard and gave it to her to drink. It tasted chlorinated like pool water, and the smell and everything. And I was just like, wow. At the time, this was like maybe about 10 years ago, I didn't have any idea what she was talking about. But definitely understand now,
Yeah,
and the importance of good hydration.
And let me add a couple of bits to hydration I think a lot of people miss. I came across this as a real challenge with a few clients who were very depleted and very stressed, as you say. And I tried to get them to drink water, and they just wouldn't do it. Even the good water, even one of them was spring water. And I was like, what is up with that, you know? But rather than make them wrong or try and defend my belief system, I was like, trying to work it out. Okay, what do I do to help these people? And it turned out there's another key component to hydration, in fact, too. The most important one, though, is electrolytes. And particularly sodium, particularly salt. You know, we have this salt phobia these days because the only salt that most of us have contact with is bad salt, right? In the same way that most of us only have tap water, most of us only have like table salt, which is like heated and denatured and basically salt made into a poison. But real fresh salt, whether it's sea salt unheated or whether it's rock salt unheated, is an essential component to life and energy. It's the most essential mineral in the body. There's a reason why if you have a serious traumatic accident and you go to hospital, the first thing they give you is water and salt.
Mm.
Right, they put you on a drip. That's the number one thing. So you've got to get enough salt into you, and your salt requirements vary a lot depending on how stressed you are. Like someone who is meditating at the top of a mountain and has no responsibilities, yeah, they just need a few grains of salt, right? But someone, as you say, a high achiever or just maybe a busy housewife or whatever it might be, who's constantly on the go and constantly stressed, you might need teaspoons and teaspoons of salt a day. So you've got to be aware of that. Also, other electrolytes, magnesium, often that needs to be supplemented, like transdermally, where you spray it on the skin. I know that you have that available, Phil. I totally love that stuff. It really helps a lot of people, and in fact, it's one of the main nutrients for making ATP, which is energy again. There's also potassium, which most raw fooders get enough of because you get it from fruits and vegetables, but people who eat a standard diet are often lacking that one. So you've got to have the electrolytes. And there's one more thing as well, and that's getting omega-3s. Because it's the omega-3s that actually hold the hydration in the cell. Because otherwise it can be, like those plant pots where you just pour the water in, but you forgot to water them for so long that it just pours straight out the other side. So your cells can often be like that. And so you need the electrolytes and especially the omega-3s to actually hold the water in there so that it stays in there and it actually gets into the cells. So, like using the plant pot metaphor, so that the roots actually have a chance to suck the water up again. And for that, I really find that some long chain omega-3s are important, especially if you've been quite depleted. Not just flax seeds, not even just hemp seeds, but if you're not a vegan, then get some krill oil. If you are a vegan, some marine phytoplankton is awesome. Marine phytoplankton is awesome, even if you're not a vegan, but it's just a bit more expensive. But something like that. Get your omega-3s, get your electrolytes, get your water. Now, those 3 steps, as I've given you today, are, as I say, they're like getting a third of the way up the ladder. They're not going to get you to peak long-lasting energy necessarily. But I'll tell you what, I've had clients who've done any one of those steps on their own, and who have had a complete transformation.
Sure.
I've had a client where we just work on mindset and suddenly they're awesome. I've had a client where we just get oxygen in them and they're awesome. Or we just get them hydrated and they're awesome, right? So don't discount. This may be stuff that you think you've heard before, but common knowledge and common practice are not the same thing, Just because everyone knows that you should drink more water or that everyone knows that you should breathe more fresh air, who cares? The question is, are you doing it? Watching this right now, that's the key thing, right? And if you are, great, then you're ready for the next step. But if you're not, this is where we start. Now you say I'm a herbalist, right? I sell herbs, I sell minerals, I sell nutritional stuff, I sell a few superfoods, but this is the basic stuff. As you notice, almost none of this is even selling anything, right? But this is the basics. This is what you absolutely must have for energy. Do you sometimes then, will you benefit from adding some herbs? Will you benefit from adding some foods or taking away some foods or whatever? Yes, absolutely. There are a lot of other strategies which will just get you to that level that we want, which is like the ultimate level of energy, right? That like the I'm going to rock the world kind of levels of energy all the time. That's what we all want. But just those 3 steps can make a massive difference in your life.
Awesome. This has been a great interview, Elwin, and I know that a lot of people are going to find a lot of benefit from it because it's just one thing that I get questioned over and over and over. And same thing with myself. I already practice a lot of these steps, but keep going and incorporating them more and more and at greater depth, like me just noticing my posture and making a change to that.
Exactly.
And how that affects things right away. And also puts me in a better mood versus like feeling all sad and, automatically just changing the posture. It's just like you can almost not be depressed when you're like that.
Like Tony Robbins says, it's not possible to be depressed if your facial expression is like this. And it's true. It's silly, but it's true, right?
It's so true. Well, I know that you have, Elwin's created a whole series of 10 steps of the ladder to optimal, high, long-lasting energy. And we're going to put a link. If you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link underneath YouTube, and there'll be a link on my website, philipmccluskey.com. You can sign up. It's free. You can get the whole series. He goes way more in depth on all of these items, and you'll get the other 7 steps. So definitely check it out. Elwin, is there anything you want to share about that?
Yeah, we're all a little bit skeptical these days of free stuff being given away. Let me just reassure everyone watching this right now. I decided that I want to share this with everyone, so I'm not holding anything back. It's not like, oh well, then you have to buy something to get the other 5 or anything like that. No, all 10 steps, shared with you in significant depth, with a load of other bonus stuff as well to help you, and it's all available to you free. So go for it now. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. and I really look forward to seeing you in there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elwin. We really appreciate having you on the show, and look forward to chatting more about upping the energy, and maybe even getting into a little bit more about herbs later on as well, and how those take play in your life. I'm always fascinated a bit about herbalism and concoctions and teas and elixirs, and I think that would be really fun for our audience because I know a lot of them are interested in that as well. But for their top 3 steps in keys to permanent high energy, this has been awesome and definitely a lot of food for thought for a lot of people. So thank you guys so much. If you're interested in checking out Elwin, you can visit him at elwinrobinson.com or some of his amazing products at lionheartherbs.com. This is Philip McCluskey. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Hope you have an amazing day.